Hey, it's Richard of Matthews Wealth Management. We're going to be talking about Roth IRA contributions today. Roth IRA contributions are very similar, if you go back and look at some of our other videos here, to the traditional IRA contributions. But the gist of it is that some Americans are prevented from doing any contributions to Roth, or there's a phase out as to how much you can actually contribute into a Roth IRA. So we're going to cover kind of a workaround for that. But first I want to give a quick review here to what a Roth IRA is. And you can go back and find some other videos here, but we have what's called the tax control triangle here. And the gist of it is we have our non-qualified assets down in the bottom left, capital gains world. We have pre-tax dollars. That's going to be where the traditional IRA, 401ks, all the stuff that typically goes into retirement. And then at the top here, we have the Roth IRA, 529 plans, etc. So what we're talking about today is getting money to the top of the triangle, which grows tax-free. So obviously that's where we want to go. And the easiest way to do a Roth IRA is through a contribution. So that's taking money that's out of a checking account or savings account and putting it into a Roth. Now, what we run into that's a problem sometimes is people earn too much. So the IRS puts a lot of limits on who can contribute into a Roth IRA. So the metric we're going to look at is what's called the modified adjusted gross income. Okay, so you can find that on your tax return. It's a tax term there, but anyway, we're at single, and then we'll look at married, filing jointly. Okay, and the limits, we have 139,000 single and 206,000 for married filing jointly. So you can see this isn't middle America, so to speak. 206,000 for modified adjusted gross income is very good income for a household, but obviously that's why the IRS doesn't want to give the benefit of the tax-free growth in the Roth IRA. So they have a phase out as to how much you can contribute into the Roth year to year. There's some other things you can check out, our traditional versus Roth IRA video to find out catch-up contributions and so forth. But for what we're covering today, this is a strategy that's called the backdoor Roth contribution. And this is specifically for people who are prevented from contributing to the Roth IRA. Okay, so currently we're talking $6,000 a year, $7,000 for a catch-up contribution. But the way that this works is we're actually going to start at the bottom right of our triangle, and we're going to contribute. Let's just use 6,000 here. We've got somebody that's under the catch-up provision here, but 6,000 a year. We're going to put that into a non-deductible IRA. And so what deductible is referencing is typically if you put your money into a traditional IRA or a deductible IRA, you get to deduct that off of your income. And that's how we end up with part of our AGI, MAGI there. So non-deductible IRA, that's where our money is going to go. Okay, so we don't get the tax deduction for the year. We can invest it into stocks, bonds, mutual funds, money markets, whatever. And the safe way to do this is to let it sit there for a while, a year or so. And if you're doing this year to year to year, there will be the previous years that you can do the next step of this. So the next step is we're going to have some gains in here. So gains or losses, we'll put losses in there. And then what we're going to have is a Roth Conversion. And we've actually got another video out there about Roth Conversion, specifically in a bear market. But the Roth Conversion takes money that's in this bottom right of the triangle, and there's a imaginary line, and when you cross that line to go to the Roth on a conversion, you got to pay taxes, right? And so the taxes in this instance, instead of being on the original 6,000, as if you had taken it out and considered it pre-tax through a deductible IRA, this is non-deductible. So we will have to pay taxes on this amount, and we'll do that out of our checking account or our savings somewhere, as opposed to out of the IRA itself. But now we've converted our non-deductible IRA amount into a Roth IRA. And this strategy really came on board back when they waived the requirements of MAGI on the Roth conversions. So Roth conversions are happening all over the place, especially in the world of COVID, as we had a big market crash. A lot of people took their money that was in the 401ks and the IRAs and moved it across the line while the balance was low. And you can read about that or see that in a video that we did here. But this is the process for what's considered a backdoor Roth contribution. You take your $6,000, it earns some money over a year or so, and then you do the Roth conversion. So if you need help doing this, a lot of the custodians have some expedited ways to make sure you're doing the proper paperwork, but it's important to do it right because you don't want the IRS to say you did it wrong, penalties, interest, and all that stuff. But this is a very successful strategy for getting around the income contribution limits of a regular Roth IRA. So come back and see us, and we'll see you next time.